Good morning guys, isang mapagpalang araw sa ating lahat. For today's topic, we will be covering again another lecture in the subject matter juvenile delinquency. So ang topic na pag-uusapan natin ngayon guys ay patungkol sa iba't ibang theories covering the topic juvenile delinquency. No? Yung mga different theories of juvenile delinquency. So we have here the specific topics that we will be talking about. We have the structural functionalism theory. These are a group of theories. We have two groups. I did not include yet the conflict theory kasi we will be covering that on a separate lecture. So in today's discussion, we will only be covering the two groups of theories of juvenile delinquency, which are the structural functionalism and symbolic interactionism. Okay? So, without further ado, let's jump into our discussion. So, the first thing that we will be talking about is yung tinatawag nating structural functionalism. Under structural functionalism, guys, these are group of theories that talks about the or that considers the different social institution as the primary cause of juvenile delinquency. Ang mga theories under structural functionalism, ang tinitignan nilang dahilan kung bakit meron tayong juvenile delinquency are the breakdown of the different social institution that we have. So when we talk about social institution, this includes the family institution, the school, the church, and any other social institution that we know of. So if they believe that pag merong breakdown, nasasabi nating merong breakdown sa isang institution kung kumbaga yung main purpose of that institution is already being not achieved, such as for example we know for a fact that family is the cradle of human personality, no? Dito natututo yung mga bata kung ano yung tamang asal, tamang pag-uugali, at dito rin sila na unang natuturuan ng mga kabutihang asal. So if the family is failing to do its part in molding, in upbringing the children, their child, then definitely meron na tayong social institution breakdown. No? The same as thing with the presence of different school. No? Kaya meron tayong school para doon natuturuan yung mga bata regarding the basic knowledge that they must need, na kung ang isang society has mababa ang kanilang literacy rate, na then definitely masasabi natin na anong ginagawa ng mga school diyan sa lugar na yan at bakit ganun kababa ang natututo sa lugar na yan. So there is already a breakdown in that social institution. Okay? Now, all of this combined, pag pinag-combine mo to, social functionalism or structural functionalism believe that they will give birth to the existence of juvenile delinquency. Okay? So we have different theories under the structural functionalism. We have the Anomie Theory, we have the Subcutural Theory, we have the Differential Opportunity Theory, we have the Social Disorganization Theory, and we have the Control Theory. So there are a lot of things that we will be talking about under structural functionalism. Basta tignan lang natin yung concept nila. Basta ang tinitignan dito is commonly, makikita din natin within the society yung root cause ng juvenile delinquency. It's within the society. The problem is in the society. Okay? You remember before I asked you the question whether sino ang nauna, whether is it the juvenile parent, is it the criminal parent or bad parent or a bad children. So this is also to reinforce my discussion on that, that we cannot literally blame the children of their behavior, but rather the society they live in, the family they grow up, and the environment that they have. So, under structural functionalism, it reinforced the thing that sabi nga dito, the causes of juvenile delinquency can be found directly onto the society itself. Now, so we have here the first theory that we will be talking about under structural functionalism, which is the Anomie Theory. So Anomie Theory originated from the concept of Durkheim, no? And we have also the contribution of Merton in year 1951, then 1957, 1938, 1957. So we have here the notion of Durkheim that he believes, sabi niya, the absence of social regulation or normlessness will eventually give birth to juvenile delinquency. Ano pa yung tinatawag nating anomie? Anomie is the absence of any form of regulations. It's a state of normlessness na kung saan wala silang patakarang sinusunod. I mean, they have their own individual way of behaving, and they are not governed by any sort of laws or sort of regulations. So that is really a problem. Kasi it seems like the individuals residing in a certain area which has no set of rules or regulations have the freedom to do what they want. Okay, to do what they want, and that's not a good environment for the children, because children does not literally know what behavior is acceptable and what behavior is not acceptable. So if they end up thinking that what they're doing is right even if it's wrong, no, based on social definition, then definitely hindi nila malalaman yun, and that will now be the cause of the problem kapag sila ay lumaki na or tumira na sila sa ibang lugar other than the society which they grow up into. So under the Anomie Theory, they really think that the absence of these things, like for example common values like respect, coming up with relationship, having a set of goals and having a set of standard means to achieve it, are really can be considered as problem, no? Yung lugar na kung saan they don't have that set of goals like any other society, na kasi sa society natin meron yung mga tinatawag nating socially approved goals, or yung culturally defined goals, which is sometimes yung mga halimbawa nito ay halimbawa ng mga culturally acceptable goals are like getting being successful, no? Yung maging successful. So every person really has that goal of succeeding in financial aspect, in career aspect, and so on, or as a human being. So it seems like that is already the common goal of every individual. So even a person who has no desire to have that thing, I believe there's a little space in his life that he wanted to be successful at some point. So these goals, no, ito yung mga culturally approved goals na to, meron yung kaakibat na tinatawag nating socially approved means of achieving it. So we have, like for example, getting a good education as a way of achieving it, di ba? Yan yung mga tinuturo sa mga kabataan natin ngayon, na para sila'y maging successful, kailangan nilang makapagtapos, kailangan nilang makapag-aral, and so on, para hindi sila maghirap in the future. So yan yung sets of goals and set of way of achieving na nakaset na sa ating society. What if in a certain society, yung tinatawag nating Anomie Theory, under Anomie Theory, what if in a certain society they only think of the goals but does not necessarily approve yung means to commit it, to succeed, to achieve it rather, no? So sila ay naniniwala din na dapat sila ay maging successful, dapat sila ay magkaroon ng pera, magkaroon ng bahay, magkaroon ng kotse, but then they don't want to accept the social standard way of achieving it. Like for example, okay, gusto nilang maging successful but they don't want to work hard. No, gusto nilang magkapera but they don't want to study hard or even attend school. So that will now give rise to the problem, no, of joining or committing or entering into the path of criminality. Now, tignan nyo, if this is the mindset of the entire society which a certain child lives in, then definitely he will adopt that sort of or that form of mindset and will end up be joining them into what they're doing. And of course, that will give birth now to the case of juvenile delinquency. The Anomie Theory actually is a gateway to other theories that we have. Kasi kung in different studies that they're conducting, it seems like they are really noticing that commonly the cases of juvenile delinquency is majority of most of the time is being observed among the members of the society belonging to the poverty line, na bakit kaya karamihan ng cases ng juvenile delinquency are higher in areas where they are suffering from extreme poverty, and so on? Kasi it seems like poverty, lack of education, lack of opportunities, and so on are connected with each other. And all of these factors will connect also to the cases or to the birth of criminality. I think there's really a connection, and there is really a connection between all of these things. So those are just an initial factors that we are looking upon under the case or under the Anomie Theory, no? So we have yung tinatawag nating set goals, we have yung tinatawag nating set means or method of achieving it. Are they going to accept it? Are they going to innovate it? Are they going to retreat from it? And so on. Those are the things that we are looking upon under Anomie Theory, no? Then we have also yung tinatawag nating Subcultural Theory, no? Under Subcultural Theory, this is related to Anomie Theory actually. Under Subcultural Theory, yung juveniles natin, children, no? First experience conflict with the ruling class, with the ruling class, doon pa lang sa pagpasok nila sa educational system, no? This is the problem in our country kasi those who belong to the poverty line are being discriminated not only in the society as a whole but in all aspect of the society, such as for example, education is no excuse, no? Ang mga bata literally has that high belief or faith into the system. May paniniwala pa sila doon sa sistema. That is why they wanted to attend school. And if you're going to ask them whether what are their dreams, what are their hopes, they always claim that they wanted to become like this in order to help their family. But the problem is, as they go on about with their education, they feel discriminated upon. Now, we cannot deny the fact that this is really is existing in the educational system of our country, and that seems to be the problem that these children coming from the lower class is facing whenever they enter into the educational system. And majority of them cannot overcome, hindi nila ma-overcome itong mga problems na ito. That's why they end up into the streets, they end up into being a dropout, school dropout, and so on. And there's not much opportunity for school dropouts, or yes, in our country, in the employment sectors. And those are the dilemma that these children are facing actually. And that is why sometimes most of the cases of juvenile delinquencies or even criminalities are occurring coming from the lower class. Now, to discuss that further, let us talk about the subcultural theory. Subcultural theory believes that upon entering, no, yung mga juvenile natin, upon joining or entering the educational system, they first have an encounter with the unfavorable treatment coming from the society, di ba? Kasi sometimes yes, it's true that in our country we have the free education, na? But not everything is actually free, na? Pag pumasok ka sa paaralan, you're not just worried about your tuition, but rather you're worried about your notebooks, na? Your bags, your uniform, your allowance, your food, your projects, and so on. So all of these things needs money, financial consideration. So all of these things needs some money in order to keep going. And that's when the system fails the hopes of the children. Na? Doon na pumapasok ngayon yung pahirap para sa mga batang mag-aaral natin who does not have that enough sustenance, financial sustenance, di ba? They're being bullied because they don't have decent clothes or uniforms. They're being bullied because they don't have decent, yung mga kagamitan sa school. They're being bullied because they don't have money to buy their foods and so on. And sometimes they even receive discrimination from the school personnel themselves. No? We cannot deny that. But of course, that's really is happening, especially in public schools. No? Kasi yun naman yung mga merong free education. So, it's not actually the juveniles that fails the system, but rather the system fails the children first, and that's why they drop out from school. Na? Because if we really think about it, it's not just about the tuition, it's all about the expenses that they're going upon. No? And it's about the acceptance that they are receiving from the majority of the society. Kaya makikita mo that they don't rather sometimes even children realize that already, that the society is not fair in like in cases like theirs, and the majority of the member of the community really isn't fair on their cases. That's why they rather choose not to continue with their education, and that's when the problem comes in. No? Kasi the moment that they really feel being oppressed by the majority, that's when, or that's the time that they develop their own subcultural subcultures. No? Gawa na sila ngayon ng sarili nilang paniniwala, and sometimes or most often times, no, that subculture is against the socially approved culture, and usually it is born out of negativity, out of hatred, and out of vengeance against the ruling class. So yan yung tinatawag nating subculture theory, no? Subcultural theory. When they reject already the approved means, and they come up with their own way of achieving things, no? And at the same time they develop their own principles and own belief in life that is usually is a product of negativity and hatred towards the oppressing class. No? So that's under the subcultural theory. Then we have differential opportunity theory, which is again connected to subcultural theory. We made mention under Anomie Theory that there are set of goals. Na? Meron tayong mga set of goals that are socially approved. And there are also set of means or methods of achieving it, which are socially approved also. What happens now if the method, the socially approved method is not working in a certain group? No? Kasi number one, most of the goals, such as success, being successful, are being affected much by education. Kasi as you can observe, under our under the employment sectors, not much opportunity is given for those individuals who were not able to finish their education at some level. No? Kung hindi ka graduate ng ganito, hindi ka makakapasok sa ganitong trabaho. That's why, ang natitirang trabaho na lang ay yung mga physical work or yung mga talagang tiring but low-paying job, no? Yun na lang ang natitira para doon sa mga hindi nakapagtapos sa pag-aaral. And that's now the problem, no? So, the opportunity is not equally distributed to certain groups. I mean, if you have a good education, you get better opportunity in the employment sector, no? And in education, of course, no, sa pag-aaral pa lang, may discrimination na doon. So, mas malaki yung chances na makapagtapos ka ng pag-aaral if you have financial sustenance. No? So again, doon pa lang sa requirements para magkaroon ka ng successful life is hindi na equal ang distribution ng opportunity kasi mas malaki ang tsansa ng mga mayayaman na makapag-aral kaysa sa mga mahihirap. And we should always think about education as number one requirement of getting into a high-paying job. No? At the same time, kahit makapag-aral ka man, the opportunity is not still equal kasi nga the opportunity is higher for those graduates who studied in prestigious universities compared to public universities and just out of the blue universities and so on. So, meron tayong discrimination na nangyayari sa ating society, and that is why some of juveniles, some of groups are being formed that really attacks the majority of the governing class. So that's with regards to that differential opportunity theory. It's because the opportunity is not equally distributed to each group. There are those groups that are being left behind in terms of opportunity, in terms of benefits, and so on. And that's the time that they rethink. Magkakaroon na sila ng pagbabago ng pag-iisip, which is hindi naman nawawala yung pagiging successful. Ang kwento kasi niyan is like two person wanted to become successful. The first one has all the opportunity provided to him. That's why he is, madali lang para sa kanya na ma-achieve yung kanyang goal. While the other one, who wanted to become successful but all of the opportunity was taken away from him, ibig sabihin, wala siyang perang pangpaaral, wala siyang taong pwedeng malapitan na pwedeng tumulong sa kanya, but still, the goal still remains there. Yung goal nandun pa rin. What will he do now? Commonly, if there is an opportunity that will be provided, be it illegal or not, he will grab it. But most of the time, ang opportunity na nagpapakita sa mga ganito, yung mga taong kapit na sa patalim na tinatawag are illegal opportunities. And that's still, they still grab it, and even if that is already considered as committing crime, they will still happily grab it because they don't have choice and they still wanted to become successful, and they are now under the path of criminality. So that's basically the illustration of differential opportunity theory. By the way, differential opportunity theory are proposed by or studied by Cloward and Olin in 1960. Next topic that we will be talking about is the social disorganization theory. We talk about this already kasi this is the main concept of the structural functionalism, yung tinatawag nating social disorganization. The breakdown of the social institution in the community, in the society, will cause the existence of juvenile delinquency. And that's basically the same concept what social disorganization theory believes into. If social control is already lost, social bonds is also losing its power towards the community level. So, kung nagkakaroon na tayo ng disorganized society, I mean, sometimes this is the reason, or sometimes ito yung nangyayari when na-infest na ng criminality yung lugar, na-infest na ng drug addiction yung lugar, and so on. Kaya nawawalan na tayo ng pakialam sa neighbors natin, sa society natin, and so on. No? That's literally a ripe environment for criminality, for juvenile delinquency to raise into, no? So napaka ano na yan, kumbaga is it's already a boiling pot. It's already ripe for criminal activities, no? Na maraming mga tao na manggagaling sa lugar na yan ang may tendency or may higher tendency na maging criminals. This is also a product of yung immigration na tinatawag, na kung saan kung sa isang lugar ang karamihan ng nakatira dyan ay mga dayo, hindi magkakakilala, there are a lot of cultures being mixed up into that place, and there are a lot of custom and tradition that are being mixed up into that place, which end up coming or developing their own cultures, their own groups and associations, na kung saan if you're not a part of it, then you are considered as an enemy, and so on. So parang wala nang pakialamanan na nagkakaroon na tayo ng tinatawag nating socially disorganized society. At kung ganun yung status ng isang society na kung saan is walang pagkakaisa doon sa isang lugar, madali lang yan mapasok ngayon ng criminality, madali lang yan mapasok ng different vices, and then yung mga tao, mga bata na lumalaki from that place, from that specific place, will definitely have the higher or has the higher tendency to become a juvenile delinquent in the near future compared to those who are living in a socially organized society, no? Diyan din sa mga place na yan, lugar na yan, nagkakaroon tayo ng mga paglago ng mga tinatawag nating gangs or brotherhoods and so on, which are also not favorable to the well-being of children living into that society, no? So that's with regards to social disorganization theory. Then we have control theory, no? Control theory is believed, it was proposed by Travis Hirschis, it was discussed by Travis Hirschis in 1969, which he argued that the absence of control is all that really is required to explain much the delinquent behavior. As you can see, juveniles without control, are really problematic into the society. That's why they need to be controlled. He even believed that they are literally bad individuals. Children are literally evil until control is being applied to them. Until yung control is not really a bad thing. I mean, proper upbringing would be considered as control, no? And their relationship with their parents, with their friends, can be considered as control. Ang taong walang control or ang batang walang control is like he's not a part of a group, no? He's not a part of the educational system. He's not emotionally involved towards his or her parents or relatives and so on. So kumbaga is he is like a bogus person na ano man ang mangyari sa kanya, no one will care. I mean, wala siyang pinapahalagang relationship, wala siyang pinapahalagang character, wala siyang pinapahalagahang any emotionally valuable things, and that's make him dangerous, no? On to the part that why would he abide the law if he does not care about anybody, no? Unlike we, no? Not we. Unlike majority of you who has close relationship with their families, close relationship with their friends, who has close relationship with their teachers, and um, everything that they do really matters. Kasi syempre ang iisipin niya, okay, so pag gumawa ako ng masama, ano ang iisipin ng family ko? Ano ang iisipin ng mga kaibigan ko? Anong isipin ng minamahal ko? So yun yung mga kumbaga nagko-control sa isang tao from not committing a certain act that is considered as illegal. Na? But if a person has nothing to do with anybody, so wala siyang sasabing, if ginawa ko to, anong iisipin na ganito, ni ganito, ni ganyan. So parang walang pwedeng makapagpigil sa kanya na gawin yung isang bagay if gusto niya, kasi he is not controlled by anybody, no? Or any emotional control is not being applied to him. No? I do hope you get the point. Under control theory, what we are literally talking about are the controls like his involvement to school activities, like joining or enrolling in a certain educational institution, his commitment to conformity, yung commitment natin, like are we committed into a certain set of goals, that's why majority of us does not do criminal acts, because we are committed at achieving something. Meron tayong gustong makamit, and we are committed to that. Like for example, opportunities being provided, but illegal opportunities is being provided to you. Kumbaga, merong mga illegal na oportunidad na nagpapakita sa'yo or bibigay sa'yo, but you will not grab it because you are committed at your goal. Let's say, for example, you wanted to become successful on your field on your own, despite having those lot of temptations and so on, ay hindi mo siya grab because you are committed at achieving something. So those are things: attachment to friend, attachment to school, attachment to family, attachment to the community, and so on. That those are also considered as a factor. If you are attached to your relationship with your family, then definitely you will not do anything bad that will endanger that attachment, that relationship with you and your family. Kasi pag ginawa mo yan, baka itakwil ka ng magulang mo, baka itakwil ka ng family mo. That's why kahit na gusto mong gawin, you still refrain from doing so because you value the relationship that you have with your parent or with your relatives. And at the same time, believe on the system. Believe in the society. Kung meron ka pa ring paniniwala that the system is still in favor of you, ikaw ay naniniwala pa rin na the system favors those who work hard, those who really put their all into their goals, then you still have that control, merong pa ring control over you, and this control refrains you from committing any act that would be considered as a criminal act. Okay, so that's under the control theory. Next thing that we will be talking about is another group of theories under juvenile delinquencies, or group of theories of juvenile delinquencies, which is the symbolic interactionism. Symbolic interactionism believes that individuals are constantly seeking for social meaning and definition for their behavior. Kanina, under structural functionalism, we are talking about the social institution as the causes of juvenile delinquency. If there is a failure coming from the different social institution that we have, that causes juvenile delinquency. Yun yung paniniwala ng structural functionalism na diniscuss natin kanina. Now, they don't care about the social institution, but they do care about the emotion. They do care about the social meaning and definitions of their behavior. How is this possible? So we have three theories under symbolic interactionism. We have the differential association theory, we have neutralization theory, we have labeling theory, as the primary theories under symbolic interactionism. So let's talk about the first one. Kasi sabi nga natin, those who commit juvenile delinquencies under symbolic interactionism believes that they're just seeking social definition or social meaning towards their behavior, whether or not the society will define their behavior as acceptable or unacceptable. Yun yung pinupunto under symbolic interactionism. Kapag ang isang bata, since he don't know yet what is allowed and what is prohibited, he tends to test his behavior. He tends to experiments on different actions and behaviors, and based on the responses coming from the society, that is how he find the definition and meaning of his behavior. Like for example, if I'm a child, no, and I did something like sinampal ko yung aking kalaro, how did the society, no, the people that surrounds me reacted from that behavior? Pinagalitan kaya ako, or hindi ako pinagalitan, kinongratulate ako, and so on. So my definition on my behavior of slapping my playmate depends on how the parents, my parents, how my friends, how my relatives who are there will react on my action and on my behavior. So kung pinagalitan ka, well, you have the definition, okay, so it seems like what I did is wrong because they get angry towards me. That's how you define it, based on their reaction. But if not, no, hindi ka pinagalitan, instead natuwa pa sila sa'yo kasi matapang ka, and so on. So you will now define that type of behavior as proper and correct because on how they reacted to your behavior. So ganun nila nakikita yung meaning towards their behavior. So this is really very crucial onto the part of parenting, kasi nga majority of parents really don't care about this, or sometimes they fail to notice these different things, and they're not informed about these different things and their impact towards the behavior of a certain child. That's why minsan is hindi nila naitatama yung mga ganitong behavior, which is, sabi ko nga, very crucial sa paglaki, sa upbringing ng isang bata. Okay, so we have here differential association theory. No? Differential association theory is again another theory that talks about how juveniles are finding the meaning of, or social meaning of their behavior, and so on. So under differential association theory, we can literally use an old saying that say it like this: tell me who your friends are and I will tell you who you are. So it seems like kung sino ang lagi mong kasama, you end up gaining the same behavior as they, because you share the same value. You will end up sharing the same belief. You will end up sharing the same behavior if you are always with each other. So that's the summary of differential association theory. Differential association theory really do believe that peer pressure and the peer pressure really plays an important role into developing the behavior of a certain child, and as well as in defining what are socially acceptable and socially unacceptable, because sometimes those who have the same behavior will flock with each other, and they will justify now their behavior, believing or making everyone believes that what they are really doing is just correct. No? Those who have the same behavior tends to hang out with each other, and they justify their behavior because they have the same behavior. No groups will definitely claim that, okay, so I guess we are wrong. No, but that's not always the case. They always justify whatever behavior they have in common. No? And that is how they develop sometimes yung mga tinatawag nating delinquent behavior. No? So let's say, for example, a group of person who does drugs, na yung mga nagdra-drugs, they come in together, they enjoy each other's company, and they will end up redefining taking drugs as an acceptable behavior because all of them share the same value. No? So that's the problem with regards to differential association theory. They end up justifying their bad behavior to make it acceptable on their group, and of course continue in committing it until they're no longer, or they has no longer any control over or towards that certain specific behavior. So under differential association theory, it really talks about it does not have it doesn't discriminate the lower class to the upper class. Under differential association theory, it both discusses juvenile delinquents coming from the lower class and coming from the upper class. Ibig sabihin, it's not about money, but it's about whom they interact with. Kasi there are those children coming from the upper class that joins with each other. I think they're more prone kasi they have a lot of opportunities, and people will tend to seek yung mga criminals, especially drug pushers, will tend to seek a group of juveniles coming from the rich family to victimize them or to supply them with their drugs and so on, compared to those who belong to the lower class, which majority of their crimes are not really focused onto drug use or whatsoever, but rather in cases of petty crimes like physical abuse or physical injuries, crimes against person, robbery, theft, and so on. So, but then still, sabi under differential association theory, both has the equal tendency to be associated with certain group of criminals and then end up developing that same morals, same goals, same beliefs as their peers. Then we have the neutralization theory. Under neutralization theory, it talks about how individuals continues on committing what they are committing, especially delinquencies. Neutralization theory believes that people or criminals, juveniles, are drifting from norms, from normal behavior to delinquent behavior. I mean, the reason why they continue is that the level of how they neutralize their behavior. I mean, how they justify their behavior sometimes. No? So, if a certain child committed an act which is considered as delinquency, halimbawa, isang bata is nagnakaw, if an intervention will be done to make him realize what he did was wrong, then definitely a higher tendency is that he will not continue in doing so because he already find the meaning of it and he believed that what he committed is already wrong. However, without conducting an intervention, no, without making a way of making them understand that what they did is wrong, they will end up justifying their act on their own way. So, papasok yan yung mga tinatawag nating neutralization theory, such as literally putting the blame to others, like, siya kasi pinilit niya ako, si parents ko kasi hindi ako binibigyan ng pera, kaya ako nagnakaw, and so on. So, parang denial of the responsibility yan na tinatawag, which is they bring the blame to someone else and they deny the responsibility. Meaning parang sinasabi nila na wala akong kasalanan kasi hindi ko naman ginusto. Kung sana ay pinalaki ako ng maayos ng aking parents, then definitely hindi ko gagawin to. Yun yung mga way of neutralizing their behavior to make them less guilty about it. Kasi when a person commits a crime, definitely he feels guilt. No? And that guilt will oftentimes eat him up in terms of behavior and so on. but then there are those individuals who can be able to neutralize that guilt and proceed with committing again another crime. And we have different way of neutralizing the guilt feeling that they are having when they committed the crime, such as yan nga, denial of responsibility, denial of injury, no? We have the condemnation of the condemners, and we have the appeal to the higher loyalties or authorities. So like doon sa denial of injury, like he deserves it. Mayabang kasi siya, kaya dapat lang na mangyari sa kanya yon. That's why ginawa ko yun. Kung halimbawa yung bata ng bugbog ng isa pang bata, sabihin niya, kasi mayabang siya, that's why binugbog ko siya. So tama lang sa kanya, wala akong ginagawang masama, gumanti lang ako. Like that. No? These are wrong. Why? Because if they continue on neutralizing their bad behavior, they'll end up committing it over and over again and doing the same. That's why merong mga juveniles na nagko-continue sa kanilang juvenile delinquent behavior. It's because they already mastered the way of neutralizing their guilt, and they don't see their person, they don't see themselves as a bad person, but rather a just person. Okay? So that's with regards to neutralization theory. Last thing that we will be talking about is about the labeling theory. I personally have a connection with regards to labeling theory because it was one of my study when I was still a student. And really, we had conducted a study involving the juvenile delinquents confined in the place where I conducted the study, no? And Franklin Tannenbaum has said about this theory that the dramatization of evil really plays an important role to this. So, what is dangerous under labeling theory is how the society perceives the behavior of a certain child. You know, it's normal for a child to do things that are unacceptable because he's just finding the meanings. Diba? Sabi nga natin, ang bata nag-experiment pa lang yan kung ano yung tama at ano yung mali. And it's up to the society to define that for him. No? So, halimbawa, ang isang bata may ninakaw. Let's take that for as an example. Halimbawa, ang bata is may ninakaw na, let's say, pera sa kanyang kapitbahay. How should we react onto that? Okay? Since he is still a child, diba? Hindi niya pa alam yung mga legalities and mga responsibilities towards that. And it's up to the parents and it's up to the person supervising the child who should explain the consequences of that action. Na? So, at that case, pwede nating sabihin na okay lang magkamali kasi bata pa naman. Basta maituro lang natin ng tama kung ano yung mali at ano yung tama. Ngayon, ang problema dito, if those things are taken seriously, like for example, nagnakaw yung bata, tumawag ka ng barangay tanod, pinahuli mo sa pulis, pinadampot mo sa DSWD, he has already come in contact with the law. No? So, pwede na nating masabi na yan is detrimental sa paglaki ng bata kasi may isip niya na ngayon, masama akong tao. Kasi, pinuntahan ako ng pulis, kinulong ako, therefore, I am a bad person. So, he will realize that, but really, in a cruel manner. Na there's no need for a child to be brought into the police station, to be detained, no, or to be given much attention na mga ganun. Kasi even his playmates, yung mga kalaro niya, will end up defining him or labeling him as bad person. Na kasi nga nahuli siya ng police. Pag ang bata hinuli ng police, then definitely yung label, na yung stigma na naimarka sa kanya will forever already remains there, no? Nandun na nakadikit na sa pangalan niya, sa pagkatao niya. But that's just a thing, no, na konti lang yung impact. Although may impact yan, pero konti lang yung impact niyan kumpara ngayon sa matatanggap niyang criticization coming from his immediate environment. So, with that experience na na-experience ng bata at early age, na what do you think will the society now will do, or how will they react towards him already, di ba? So, ang tendency niyan is malalabel na siyang magnanakaw, criminal. Why? Because at early age, nadampot na siya ng pulis, nakulong na siya, nahuli na siya because of a certain behavior which is considered as still normal part of childhood, no? Na kung saan they're still experimenting on what behavior is acceptable and what behavior is not. But still, na yun nga, na-dramatize na yung evil na yan, he will end up being labeled as bad person, as criminal, and the impact of that labeling to the child is really very detrimental. Ibig sabihin, pwedeng patotohanin or maging totoo yung nililabel ng the society sa kanya pag nagkataon. So dahil yun ang tawag sa kanya mula pagkabata na siya ay magnanakaw, siya ay kriminal, he will end up like that in the future as he grow up. That's really the bad impact of labeling a child in his behavior. So, Tannenbaum suggested that those simple acts that can be resolved through meditation, through simple intervention, should not be brought to the attention of the police officer or to the court, but rather they should be resolved in a family environment, in yung mga mediation lamang, yung pag-uusap lamang at tamang pagpapaliwanag lamang, at hindi na kailangang paabutin ito sa pulis at sa korte. Kasi pag pinaabot mo ito, magkakaroon na tayo ng institutional labeling which will then result into more serious negative labeling sa bata, which of course will impact the behavior of the child. Okay, so those are the things that really impacts the existence of juvenile delinquency as far as the different theories are concerned. So I do hope you learned something from this lecture. If you have questions relative to this, comment those down on the comment section and I will try to get back to you soon. So I do hope you learned something. That's it for today. See you on the next lecture.